might go 100% against the white paper as to what it says in the stats. But honestly, after a year and a half of data, it's not anecdotal anymore. There are definitely things, and I don't know, maybe it's just a wording on the white paper where it's like they're kind of right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's definitely things, and I've talked with guys like MJ in particular, who's like the data guy, in my opinion. You know, his website, while it might not be the prettiest to look at, has so much data in there that I think people aren't even paying attention to. And a lot of it's because me and him have conversations, and we bounce things off each other, new ideas, because this game's all about theory crafting. Again, if you've been around long enough, you would know that like people had all these different crazy ideas when the game first started in beta, and everybody raced in beta. It was monopoly money, didn't cost anybody a penny. So everyone was breeding with the best horse. Nobody was paying attention to their own bloodlines. You feel me? So it was like a different type of ecosystem, even though it was no real money. And now we got kicked into the game. So you mentioned the racing, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have these types of races when PFL came out. We didn't have the benchmarks. We didn't have a lot of the, I guess we always had the graded racing. We had stakes racing. We had handicaps. We didn't have the different brackets of allowances. So the team has made adjustments along the way, and you have to kind of pivot and kind of move along with the game, right? We all want it to be real horse racing. I don't know about you, but I'm a avid horse player. I've been hanging out the track since I was 2 years old. I'm 42. So long time, man, like with the real horses. And I got to tell you, this is the closest thing to it. But there is a gamification, like a video game, that you have to kind of pay attention to. And that's where I think the race types kind of come in. So you mentioned you have all these different race types. Where do you look?
Yeah.
Well, that's your horse is going to dictate that, right? You as an owner might have an idea and say, okay, well, the mom ran stakes racing, but the dad didn't, right? So one probably has a good heart gene and one doesn't. That's why I didn't run stakes racing, because again, stakes racing and higher levels of difficulty in racing is going to start tapping into your heart more than like at a low claimer level, right? So that's why if you have a horse and you're like, well, I don't think allowances really says anything, it tells you everything. If you tried to run it in a stakes race, same condition 2 times, and you got way different results, the horse fell apart, couldn't get to the lead, you probably don't have the heart. But you have to pay to figure this stuff out. Or you can take my approach, which is don't risk it early. Race the horse in maiden, break your maiden, understand your horse, and then say, okay, how can I test him higher, right? Some people just say, hey, I'm going to spend $25 a race, throw this horse in. You do that 10 times, you don't hit the board, you're down $250.
Yeah.
Multiply that with 5 horses, you know what I'm saying? You're down $1,250. Now keep in mind that I race 70-something horses right now.
Oh wow.
I can't do that. I can't just say 820. And I know I don't have stakes runners anyway, the majority of my bloodlines. So again, if you know your bloodlines and you understand the horses you own, you might not lose money early on. But you have to know and say, okay, well, I ran an allowance. He runs it really good. What's your next step? Well, now you try to find a stakes race. You wouldn't want to go down to a claimer if you're handling allowance races, and you can handle, like, the A pluses will carry a couple pounds, and the allowances with A's to S's. But maybe they don't like 2 pounds. Maybe they have no temper on the horse. Again, it's another hot topic. I firmly believe temper has nothing to do with racing at all. I think, as a matter of fact, I think 98 out of the top 100 horses on PFL will verify that. It has everything to do with breeding. Or if you race at a lower level and you put weight on the back, and that's what you do in allowances. You put an A plus and an A to an S, carrying a couple pounds. Maybe he's got good heart but low temper. Well, he's not going to like the allowance. Even though he has the heart, he's not going to like the allowance because he doesn't have the temperament to hold the weight. Does that make sense? Again, this is just the way I've been correlating data along the way. Some people agree with me, some people don't really care.
Yeah.
But so I'm just trying to break it down to you on like where we're coming from, a baseline level of like these stats inherently mean something on every horse that you own, and it's going to be different on every horse that you own. You know what I mean? Just because one horse runs a stakes race doesn't mean the other 10 will. I have bloodlines where I know both parents aren't even that good, but 1 out of 10 will come out running like top 10 times in the game.
Okay.
But think of the money I wasted on the other 9 racing, breeding, learning to get that one decent horse? Is it worth it? I
Yeah,
don't think
no.
so. You know, but so
I
where do you
guess.
think the struggle comes in? Keep in mind, I'm also used to hosting, so this might be weird.
Oh no,
Um,
you're fine.
where do you think the struggle comes in from a newer player trying to race?
Well, that's what I struggled in is when I was trying to find a race to enter. I didn't even think about the maidens. The preferred that it gave me were stakes and I think allowances. So one of the first horses was I ran I think 6 or 7 times. None of them were maidens. They were all allowance or stakes. So that's where I got confused. So you always start
Which I think
maiden.
is right always, and this is again could be a contentious topic of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But again, for people that are new to the game, have no idea what their horses are, where they come from, you should always be in the maiden. Again, coming from real horse racing, very rarely do you see a horse not running in a maiden to break its maiden.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go all the way to the top. You have to go to like Into Mischief and tap it and insert good horse here for people that know horse racing. But majority, 90, probably 90%, 95% of horses break their maiden, which is their first win in an actual maiden race. So if you say,
Okay.
okay, I got a baby from two sprinting parents, ideally I'd probably want to go 4 to 6 furlongs for the first race at least, and you know, obviously soft, look for rain, firm, look for dry, but you want to try to be in that bracket, that 4, 5, 6. Right? You understand? Like there's brackets, right? You have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Mm-hmm.
11, 12. They
Yep.
all function differently. If you have a horse that runs 9, you would think he wants to run 10, but in photo finish,
Mm-hmm.
not really how it works because the game is in a different funnel and your horse is going to run differently. Now, you might have some horses that run 9 and 10, they kind of overlap, but more often than not, they kind of like that funnel of the 3 furlong, um, the way PFL set it up. So, does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
glad you brought that up then. So um, I've spoken to you about this horse, Rostov, right? And I saw that his flea figures, he prefers 10, and his secondary would be 9. So why is it leaking into 2 funnels then?
Well, I mean, like I said, so the way the stats work, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're not static. So
Okay.
an S speed on one horse might not be the same S speed on another horse. There's actually, I want to say, 3 different levels, or at least 2, to each subgrade. So you have like S level 1, S level 2, which the level 2 is going to be more higher towards the peak of moving up to the next grade, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not all created equal. So you just might have a horse that's like, hey, you know what? The finish, the speed, they just kind of like carry the horse through the 9 furlongs and they hang on for 10 more often than not. You know what I mean? But if
Mm-hmm.
you look at the horse and you look at visually, where do they make their move? What's their best times? Again, you could typically narrow it down to one funnel, but there are cases, plenty of cases, and I would not shy away from a race at 10 if the
Mm-hmm.
horse wins it. If he likes 9 and 10, well, then run him till the wheels fall off at 9 and 10. But I'm saying when you're learning a horse
Yeah.
and you don't have that data,
Mm-hmm.
it's safer to kind of be in that 3 furlong bracket, the funnel. Um, Again, especially in maiden, because in maiden you're running with no weight. Everybody's on an even playing field, so you're going to get all the raw data.
Okay.
Whereas if you go into an allowance and you're an A plus or an S minus, maybe you're carrying 4 pounds, 2 pounds, whatever the case might be, you're not getting actual data on that horse. You feel me? So you could get a wrong read and wind up going down the wrong rabbit hole. And I've done it with multiple horses where I was actually racing them too short, but I had lucky spurts where the other horses couldn't keep up.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, he's a 4 furlong horse. No, he was actually a 6. I just never gave him enough time to get rolling. And when I finally unleashed him, now he's a monster. You know, like took me a couple races to figure it out. But these are things you're going to learn as you go. But you should always be in a maiden until you break your maiden.
Yeah.
And then depending on what happens in your maiden, so you mentioned fleet figures.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be careful with fleet figures because they're normalized. So they're normalized against a horse that runs a perfect race, which I think is 109 fleet figure, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. But they're normalized, so it's almost like being graded on a curve in a classroom. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get an actual assessment of that horse in a fleet figure, but You might find out that you're close. If you know that you're running an A plus, for instance, that runs low 70s, mid 70s, or I have one that I had an A plus that ran an 81.
Mm-hmm.
I even have S's that run 81 sometimes. You know what I mean? I was like, damn. Well, that was his preferred funnel, and turns out he liked it. But I have other ones that run high fleets at 6, but their best race times are at 5. So now you have to kind of juggle that and say, okay, well, what do I do with that? Well, fleet figures don't mean shit when you're racing against other horses, right? Let's just be honest. The race times are what matters. So I would always tell people, use fleet figures, understand them, but when it comes to racing for stakes racing or big money,
Mm-hmm.
you should have a horse that has all their or majority of the race dots of the times, at the top of the box or outside the box. Okay, those are the horses that belong in stakes racing. So if you race twice with a maiden, you win on the second time out, you took a third the first one, and you look at the 2 dots and you're like, well, okay, 6 is way above the box in Whisker, but the 5 is kind of towards the top. I'd probably go with the 6 and I'd probably check out a stakes race. But if you won the race and you're halfway down the box with a slow time,
Mm-hmm.
that horse is going to get destroyed in a stakes race. People have to understand that. So in that case, you'd probably want to bump it to an allowance, or if you have enough data, you can go to a benchmark, which I think benchmark is the future of PFL in my opinion. Why I push them so much. I think seeing an A plus beat the crap out of a shitty S is like one of my favorite things to do. So benchmark, I think, is the future of the game. And yeah, but you have to get all the data in a maiden race, and you have to read that data correctly, or else you're going to lose a lot of money.
So leaving off of maiden, you said you're saying. What is your next step after that? Are you going allowance or stakes?
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. So it
Yeah.
depends on your horse. So if your horse wins that race,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I'm sure you've seen good horses where it's like they get out the gate, they run first or second, they make that first move, then they make a second move, they never fall back, they don't play that yo-yo game, back and forth, the slingshot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you see horses like that, and then you look at the time and you look at the box, you're always looking at the box and Whiskers, right? When you go to charts.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Right?
What is that? The Whiskers.
Yeah, so look at your charts. You have the screen.
Okay.
Look at your chart.
Okay.
At the bottom, underneath your profits, those box and Whiskers. So now you have to select your archetype.
Okay.
So whatever that horse is, make sure you select that at the bottom. It'll say right dirt, left dirt, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And now you have to look at the race times and say, okay, so this is going to tell me everything that I need to know. Let me get your screen bigger on my side. Hold on. There we go. Okay, yeah. So at 10 furlongs, see how high that dot is?
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good time. Your average times are going to be in the middle of the gray box.
Okay.
That's a normal time. So you can already tell that at 9 furlongs, you're way above average. You're almost outside the box. Love that.
Okay.
10, you're even better. 11 starts to fall off, and you can kind of see how you got that 8 furlong and that 11 furlong are very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have the 2 top towards the box, but I don't know if he hit the board in that race. But anyway, 9 and 10 is obviously your strongest, but 10 looks to be a little inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 that are down low, it looks like, or multiple that are down low and multiple that are up high. Now you have to go into your 10 furlong and isolate only 10 furlong races and say, okay, why did this horse run bad? And the other races, maybe you screwed up. Maybe you put it in the allowance or a handicap, rather. I've seen people put S horses in a handicap. Never do that. They're going to carry more weight than a small country on their back, and they can't do it. Like, you don't see S horses winning A to S allowances ever. I think I've seen like maybe 1 or 2 in my lifetime. But now we have S minus to S plus.
Okay. Are you saying S, just S, or are you saying S in general, like S minus, S plus?
No, just S in general, because this is the highest. The low bracket of allowance racing is A to S, and then you have S minus to S plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an S horse and you win your maiden, and you're not good enough for stakes racing, you used to have a hard time in PFL because the only option was claimer, handicap, and like I said, handicaps are going to put too much weight on them too. So you didn't really have much of a choice. Now you have benchmark racing. Now you have S minus to S plus. But the point is, you don't want to be the horse that's carrying the most weight on their back ever in a race. So you don't want to be an S horse in an 8 and an S allowance. You don't want to be an S plus in an 8 and an S minus to S plus allowance either. However, we don't really have that much of an S plus playing field at the moment. We're still getting there, so that's a little more difficult. You can actually get away with the S pluses because some of them are just more glorified S horses more than anything else. Again, depending on who you talk to, I'm a big fan of the commish. The blueprints was spot on in my opinion. Basically breaking it down for everybody. I don't know if you read it, but he basically broke down the game, step by step. And I might disagree with some things that I have data on, but for the most part, I think he was pushing people in the right direction. So,
what is this? You said? Do you have a link to it?
If you just check Solanaut Stables, that's the commish. Check his Twitter.
Okay. Let me get that. Okay.
It's probably an article on the PFL site too, linking to it, but.
Solanaut.
But he's one of the OGs, man. I mean, this guy's been around forever. He's made a shit ton of money, And I'm not saying big barns do this, but the problem with PFL is that everybody made a lot of money and real quick.
Yeah.
And then word got out, and everyone thought they could just come to this magical place called Photo Finish and buy a horse for a lot of money and make 6 figures in the next 3 months, like a lot of people did. Newsflash, it's not that easy. Not only did we have a market crash, we had saturation of horses, which we knew was coming. But you had a lot of people that were just buying bad horses, and now they breed bad horses. I don't listen. I probably offended you. I know I've offended most people I've talked to at least once. If you guys send me a horse, and I'm gonna tell you, it's not worth breeding that horse ever. Like, don't breed that horse. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your money. You can go on the marketplace and buy a better filly or a better colt in some cases for $15. Instead, you're going to waste money just because you have some weird emotional attachment to a horse.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got to breed this horse out. Well, now you wait 4 months, you find out that horse sucks too, and now you got to do it again. So, I don't know, man. Like I said, but a lot of people came in thinking it was easy money, don't want to put in the work, thought you could just race for crown and, whatever. But I was not pushing that agenda ever.
Yeah.
Anybody that tuned into my shit. So I push a very realistic narrative. I do this shit for 10 to 14 hours a day. My profits are way down, but I test out a lot of theories. I breed a lot of horses. I do a lot of racing that I know I shouldn't do, but I've yet to lose money any season. So, and I'm having fun.
Oh damn! Yeah, I definitely need to catch up on that because I didn't. You said there was a new white paper, right?
No, not a new white paper. It's just the white paper. But in that white paper, they explain things like how the breeding algorithm works, and which people don't pay attention to. Again, if you take a mom with great speed and a dad with great speed, or a bad speed rather, but the dad has a inheritable trait. So each horse has 3 traits that are passed down directly to the baby. Okay, so you have 3 from one side, 3 from the other, and then you have the other 2 that are just kind of like mixed in. All right, because there are 2 hidden attributes that we don't see. Some people think it's distance preference, which I might agree, and I've always kind of thought about what if it's like a track preference. Even though your horse is right dirt firm or right dirt soft, maybe it's got like an inheritable trait where it just hates the moisture and it turns out to be a bad horse. Because I've had firm horses that only run on a wet track and vice versa, which shouldn't be the case, but...
And they do good?
But they do good. They do good on the opposite, but...
What the hell?
but we have 6 that we see. You know what I mean? But out of the 6, 3 are passed down from one, 3 are passed down from the other. But what if the dad has an inheritable speed and the mom doesn't? Well, what happens in that case, let's say you pop out an S foal, for instance, and it's going to take the bad speed if it's inheritable, but it's not going to take the exact speed. So if it's like an A+, it's not going to take an A+ directly, but it will be like in comparison to the grade of the horse. So if the dad had like a -2 subgrade on speed, you could assume the kid is probably going to have a -1 subgrade, maybe a -2 subgrade, depending on the mom. So you have to be careful. But again, people buy these horses, they breed these horses thinking, oh, well, I'll just fix it. That's not really how this game works. It doesn't really just like blend things together. Sometimes it does. but that's only if it's one of the traits that are not inheritable. Now it becomes more of like a mixture of the mom and dad. So an S with an A plus, more than likely going to give you an S minus. But again, you have to really keep on clicking on every horse and say, okay, I look at the mom. What is she passing down directly? Okay, let me check the kids because they have babies too. Let me check the kids down and say, is it being continuously passed down? More often than not, you'll find out it is. I have people that send me examples, and I'm like, yeah, but look at the mom, look at the dad. There's usually something to it. Like the dad will be a super horse that they spent $250 to breed with or something, you know? Because good genes do matter. Again, we're going to see Gen 0 horses die. So that means all the original horses are going to die in five months and 1 week.
When they turn 25, right?
I think when they turn 25. So think about what that does to the game. Because we haven't seen that yet. All we saw was people getting more horses, breeding more garbage. And we just have a bunch of horses now, right? And we're like, yeah, we're the players. Listen, the players are here, but the horses are just really, really bad. A lot of them.
Yeah.
But what we need is you get an influx of players, you get people that come in, and they understand that I'm not buying this horse to race in the Kentucky Derby. I'm going to, like me, I've been doing it now the past 2 months now. I wait till my horses are 3, and I start racing a lot of them, and I just put them in nothing but, grade restricted claimers, and I hit the podium a lot, I win a lot, people claim the horses. Now I get people running my horses in bigger races. They can do the work for me. You know what I mean? Without even realizing they're working for me. So these I'm saying, but these are like little tricks you can do to save money and not be like, well, shit, I got 15 horses, $10 a race. Damn, that's $150 a race today, man. What if they all shit the bed? What do you do? So I have some horses that cost me $30 a race, like my stakes runners, and I have some that I won't put in a race that's more than $1.52 nowadays, like the little claimer races,
Oh, yeah.
But they're fun. I think more people should take advantage, man. More people should own at least 10. People should own at least 10 horses to put in claimer races, like those little S minus, A plus only claimers. Everybody should do it. Dude, they cost you $1.50 to race.
Where are those? Because I don't think I've seen those before.
Just go to.
Is it just claiming?
No, use your quick filters. You don't have to use that side filter. Yeah, use the quick
filters.
Oh,
quick filters. Okay.
Just click on claiming and then same grade. Where is it? No, it's probably not going to show it on this page. But if you're looking at your horse and you go to like find preferred race.
Okay. Let me. Oh, nope. Can't do that one. Oh, well, that's my only actual racing one. So, okay. You can't do the trainer ones, right? No, I wouldn't be doing the trainers. Okay, that doesn't help. But
well, anyway, in that quick filter, there's a button that says same grade. So you basically click on claimer, same grade, and it's going to give you all the options. And you can just look at the S minus max. Those are the ones you want to be in. They got to get rid of these other open claimers, in my opinion. They're ruining the game. Yeah,
these graded.
No, not those. Those are the ones those are the only thing we should have. We should have S minus only claimers, A plus only claimers, because the other ones, people just dropping S's and S pluses, and new players come in, not wanting to spend a lot of money racing, so they put A pluses or S minuses in those other claimers, thinking like, oh, I'll just have some fun, and they never stand a chance. They're never gonna win. You know what I mean? So the S minus max or A plus max, those things should be filled up, popping off like 15, 20 times a day, in my opinion.
And what is this graded claim, or just graded in general? Because I've seen that before, where it says like race type, and then it says graded 1, 2, 3. What does that even mean?
Okay, well, so you have two different things. So you have graded racing, which is like stakes racing, highest of the high, grade 3, grade 2, then grade 1.
Yeah.
Graded racing is different. So graded, it's just basically telling you whatever the grade of your horse is, that is the only horses you're going to be racing against. Which means an S minus graded claimer, only S minus and below can join that race. If an A plus wanted to come in, they could. But an S can't come in and steal your money. An S plus can't come in and steal your money.
Yeah.
But that's why these things should be filled up all day, every day. But instead, they don't have them for 2-year-olds right now. They only have the other ones that you see underneath. for 2K, yeah, the 2K,
Juvenile.
5K, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, and it's
That's
just
all
a
they
mixture
have.
of everything, right?
Anybody can put any horse in there, but you know,
Oh.
like look, selection window open, right? Click on the 2K, and I bet you there's not.
This one
It's
right
not. I mean, there might be there might be A pluses and shit, but they got no chance. Yeah, see, look, it's all filled
here.
with
A
S's
plus.
now.
S S
Yeah,
S S. Huh.
but that A plus, what they should do is go find an A plus grade restricted, which means an A plus is the highest that can enter, so you don't have to worry about S's. A plus grade restricted claimer, but we don't have those for 2-year-olds, so these people have no choice but to come in here and run the other ones. That's why I tell people
Oh.
stop racing claimers at 2 years old. When
That's
your horse is 2, race maidens. If your horse really is that bad, stop racing them. If you got 5 races and you can't hit the podium or make any sort of money, and your horse hasn't made any move in a race that made your eyes open up a little bit, shut him down. Come back to him when he's 3 years old or they're 3 years old, and put him in those claimers. That's what people should be doing.
And then, when do you just officially give up on a horse? Like, is it after 3 years old? If they don't cut it, then you drop them, or do you wait until 4 years old?
So I have a mathematical percentage-based system. For me, it's 40%. If you can't hit the board 40% of the time, and you have to sneak a couple wins in here every now and then to make it worth it.
Yeah.
But most of my horses, if they can hit 40% or better, and I don't misrace them, again, I'm not putting handicap horses or allowance horses in stakes racing. If I'm not doing that, I can break even or make $50 maybe in a season. So again, time versus worth. I mean, is it worth it? $50 for the month? Not really, with the amount of time I put in. But if I do that with 10 horses, I made 500. And then I have like 2 or 3 surprises this month that made me $300 by themselves each. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those 2 horses right there probably paid for all of my losses, you know? And that's what it's all about. I mean, live to fight another day, learn, spend money to make money. I spent a lot of money in this freaking game, but I made a lot of money, you know?
Glad you spoke about this too, because there was another thing I was getting confused about. So, I know you said allowance, right? Adds weight, right? And that's to even out the playing field for all the horses, right?
True, but it's again, this is my opinion. I have the data to back it up, but some people will disagree with this statement. When you put weight on the horse's back, it now looks at the horse's temperament, which is the temper, to see if it can handle the weight. Which it doesn't check the temper on a stakes race. It doesn't check the temper on a maiden race because they don't carry weight on their back ever.
So I've been putting my horse in allowances from, and it's not just S minus. I've been doing it from what is it, A plus to S minus, I think, and then S minus to I think it was S
you have
plus.
2 types of allowance races. You have A to S, and you have S minus to S plus. Those are the 2 brackets.
Yeah, so I've been doing those. Yeah. And then that other one, it includes SS minus, but there's not really many of them anyways. So my horse has been doing good.
This season, it's S minus to SS minus. You're right.
Yeah. So my horse has been doing good on both of those. So if it comes down to added weight, so that means that the temperament or the temper is high. If he's doing well,
so that means more than likely you're catching either the same grade temperament as the horse itself, or maybe a slight subgrade lower. But you see a lot of horses that are in the S minus with like an A minus temper. They're never going to like weight on their back. Again, the data's out there. You can look at it. They're not going to like it. What they might like, if their heart is high enough, they'll love stakes racing. They'll love anything where they don't have to carry weight. They'll love claiming. They'll love stakes racing. But again, why would you run a claimer if the horse has the heart to run stakes?
Yeah.
That's where people go wrong. They put everybody that belongs in claimers in stakes racing, wasting anywhere from 20 to 45, $60 a race. Or, they don't do the opposite, or they do the opposite rather, and they put stakes running horses in claimers because they're cheap, and they don't want to spend a lot of money to race when the horse actually tells you it's good enough to race in those races. But people don't understand what they're looking at. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing, too. I don't mind talking about this shit.
Yeah.
But a lot of barns and a lot of big barns are going to keep things real tight to the chest.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
And I might talk a lot of things, and I might run my mouth, and I'll talk really quick. But I don't really go into detail on a lot because I have a lot of secrets, too, that I don't want people to figure out.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I
of
mean?
course, of course.
Because the more I tell people, and I've already proven it, the more I start to talk about my little theories on After Dark and my shows,
Mm-hmm.
my racing becomes more difficult because now people are racing like me because they understand of what I'm looking at and how I'm looking under the hood and stats and how they correlate to the, the way the horse runs, visual cues that you can look at,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
You
People,
said
a lot of people disagree. You can look at a race and be like, "Nah, I don't need to watch the race." Oh, you should watch the race. You should watch every race probably 2 or 3 times
yeah.
because you can learn so much about that horse, which will make it easier to run your next race, which will save you money or make you money, right? In the short term, in the long term, you're profitable. So
You said you have your own show?
yeah, dude, I stream this like I've been holding down the content for PFL for 2 years, brother.
Oh,
And when
wow.
nobody else wanted to touch Web3 gaming, crypto, like dude, me and my boy on YouTube, we started off doing it on his channel because he does a lot of NFT stuff. But I mean, yeah, I just became the go-to show, the voice of PFL, man.
That's what it's called, The Voice?
No.
Oh.
We do. I do After Dark. So After
Oh,
Dark is
After
my
Dark.
yeah. So After Dark is my show, and then I mean, just because of quality, I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up in production. I grew up in audio production and video production. So seeing other people run, streams on StreamYard and like weird, like background music and stuff, it's real hard for me to watch. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we run quality, production, and that's why I'm the one that I run the virtual Kentucky Derby show.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
That before.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm the, I do all the director. I'm in their ears, guiding Fib and Ian. I'm the director. I'm the producer. I'm the guy, creative director during the week, making all the graphics, doing all the animations. Like this is how I paid the bills for a long time. So now I get to take all of my skills that I put together for the past 40 some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
Now I do PFL, and like I said, I've gone back to driving just because I'm bored. I do Uber Eats just because I'm bored and I like to drive around, but
Oh, nice.
I don't really need to work. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
game has done very, very well.
That's good, man.
I know. And it's not even a brag. That's just to tell people, man. Like if you come in and you like the game
Mm-hmm.
and you like to do homework and if it doesn't feel like I don't want to sit down and watch 10 races today. I don't want to look at data. This game's not for you.
Yeah, true.
But people thought it was, and that's kind of what I have a problem with when people come in and they're like, well, so-and-so just told me it's going to be easy. Just buy this horse from them and I'll make a lot of money. No, I mean that, first of all, I don't think anybody actually told people that.
Yeah.
But, if you're buying horses from a successful barn, you would think it's going to be a successful horse.
Hopefully.
Welcome
yeah.
to horse racing. Well, welcome to horse racing because in the real world it doesn't work that way, and photo finish doesn't work that way either. So,
No.
And I'm sure we can move into something else. But what I like to tell people, man, is possibility versus probability. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you take 2 good horses in PFL and you smash them together to make a baby, probable going to be a good horse. Possibility, it's not. You get the bad roll. You've probably seen a breeding report, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of information on there that can go against you, and you get a really shitty version of the horse. Don't believe me? Look at my can pork chop baby. I mean, I was dying for a can pork chop baby. MoKnowz was real cool. Reached out to me, helped me out, and it turned out to be the worst freaking offspring that horse ever had. So it is what it is, but it's still a decent filly. But I got knocked on the subgrades. All the stats were mediocre. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But the point is, if you take 2 good horses,
Mm-hmm.
it's probable you're going to get a good horse, but it's possible you don't. And if you take 2 bad horses together, like most people do, myself included, you're more than likely going to get a bad horse that probably can't even run a claimer race.
Yeah.
So just take that for what you will, man. But people are just thinking, oh well, it came from this baby or came from this horse. It's got to be a good horse. That's,
Yeah, automatic.
yeah, like I said, I can assure you that's not true. But yeah, so actually finishing off on the race types, and then we can move
Yeah.
on to something else. I got a little more time. From the bottom to the top, this is how you should assess your racing and where your horse should be. Okay.
Okay.
Always start in maiden.
Yep.
Always, always, always start in maiden. From there, from the bottom to the top, you have claimers. You have handicap / allowance. You have stakes races. And then you have your grade 3, grade 2, grade 1. Okay? Now, benchmark. I'd probably sit the benchmark in with the allowance and the handicap nowadays. But the way that I'm grading those races is based on your horse's heart. If your horse comes out and runs a sick, really good time in the maiden race and you break your maiden and you're, 8 lengths in front of every other horse, try a stakes race. Can't hurt. You ran a good race once, you might do it again. But the stakes race is at the top. If he runs a mediocre, again, you could try your allowance, try your handicap, try a benchmark. But you probably don't have, you got to get, you know this, right? You have to get in like 3 to 5 races before you can get a benchmark rating. So you can't run benchmark right out of maiden half the time anyway.
Yeah.
So again, depending on where you want to go from a maiden, from the bottom to the top, it's claimer, allowances or handicaps / benchmark. Then you got your stakes racing. Then you got your grade 3, grade 2, grade 1. And that's really it, man. And like I said, based on the heart of your horse, will tell you where you want to run. So if you're doing good in allowances, you can try to move up to a stakes race. But if you get your ass kicked 2 times, come back down to an allowance. If your horse can't handle the weight from the allowance, try to find a benchmark. Or you could try a handicap, but normally if they don't like the weight from an allowance, they're not going to like the weight from the handicap.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how it goes.
Mhm.
But because it's weighted evenly in a handicap, they're weighted way more fairly than the allowances are with the 2, 4, 6 pounds.
Mhm.
So maybe they do like the handicap. I've had horses that hated everything else, but they only run handicaps. So you know what I do? I don't run them in anything else but a handicap. And then people complain. They're like, well, I can only race once every 5 days. Well, buy more horses.
Yep.
At least your horse is winning every 5 days, hopefully. If you say they like handicaps, you're like, well, he's hitting the podium 40, 50% of the time. I'm at least breaking even, making a couple bucks. Okay, buy another horse and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I did. I wasn't taking money out, when I was winning early on. I was buying more horses. So, does that make sense, though? Like, from the bottom to the top,
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get rid of that horse, you understand you belong in claimers.
Famers. Yep.
If you think you have a good horse, he belongs in stakes racing.
Thanks. Yep.
And then, like I said, it's that in between that people struggle with,
Yeah.
where you can kind of play around depending on what your horse is looking like. Again, with some weight, without the weight, in the maidens, So
Yeah, you were saying
that's
if
really
you,
it. That's what people need to understand, I think.
you were saying if you lose too many times or about twice, then you go down to allowance. But and allowance is weighted more than handicap, correct?
No, not necessarily. Handicap is based on your horse's previous performance, money earned, wins. So I've had A's that held 12 pounds on their back because they dominated for so long. They dominated so much at allowance with no weight. Put them in a handicap, they carried more than S minuses. It tries to make an even playing field across the board, honestly. So that's what I'm saying. That's why maybe you get lucky in handicaps, because it's such an even horse that whenever your other horse is even, your horse is just a little bit better evenly. That's all.
So if my horse is currently doing good in allowance, there's no need for me to be putting them in handicap, right?
Hell no.
I mean, they pay the same though, right? Or roughly?
Yeah. So if you can't find an allowance, but there's a handicap available, let's say there's a handicap available tomorrow that you can get into, but there's not an allowance for 2.5 days. So you have 2 options. Do you rest your horse for 2.5 days, or do you put him in the handicap because you've never done it before, test it out, cost you $8, and then you put him in the allowance too. You race
Yeah.
them both. You just make sure you can get in the window. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong. I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with going to handicap.
Mhm.
But if the horse is proving to you that they can't handle the higher racing, you have to be able to understand the ladder of coming down and going up.
Yeah.
Same thing with dating women, right? I mean, I'm kind of a reasonable guy. I'm a slightly better looking version of like Adam Sandler, I guess. But when I was growing up, you feel cocky at a bar, you're at a club, right? You're like, yo, I'm start talking to these girls. I start talking to better girls and better girls until they shut you down. And you get shut down by 2, 3 hot girls, and you're like, all right, let me go back down to my level. It's no different here, right? People just trying to bang, hot broads all the time when they have horses that don't belong anywhere but the middle of the road, So might be a weird analogy, but maybe some people figure it out. People just going in over their head is the moral of the story. So try a handicap, but if you've done it 2 or 3 times and your horse hated it, and he only likes allowances, your only option from there would be benchmark, which I love benchmark, by the way. Benchmark or claimer. But maybe you don't want to run them in a claimer. Maybe you don't want to risk losing them.
And what did you say? Benchmark is the future.
Benchmark is the future. When they made PFL, they never wanted to have grades of horses. Ian's been on record saying it. They wanted each horse to be bred and stand by its performance against other horses and their performance. The best way to do that is to have benchmark racing. I guess you could argue the problem with benchmark racing is that people could manipulate the fleet figures by tanking the horse and getting into a worse race. Here's the thing. I've done the math on it. It doesn't make sense. The amount of money you would spend to tank a good horse to win a $200 race, it doesn't make sense financially. If you have a good horse, go race him in good racing and win. I have good horses now, like my S minuses and my S's. They're winning 150, $175 a pop when they win. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell would I tank that to lose over and over and over again 4 or 5 times, lower my rating to go win a $150 race? No, thank you. So anybody saying that just doesn't understand basic math, maybe, but it just doesn't make sense for people to tank benchmark. So what that means is if you have a good A plus, and I have good A pluses that run against good S's or bad S's rather, why the hell shouldn't I be able to do that 24 hours a day? The whole schedule, in my opinion, should be benchmark. Nothing but benchmark, stakes racing. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what the future of the game is, in my opinion. But because people are going to cry if you remove the allowance races, because they've built horses that are meant to kind of game the system. That's the gamification I was talking about.
Yeah.
When people breed based around the current meta, I understand why they'd be mad. And I've bred around the meta too. So, I'd be a little pissed, I guess, but I'll just change with the times. And I think benchmarks are a better race anyway. So.
And sorry, so benchmark is basically restricted to the grade itself, right? So S minus, right? Only can join.
No. That's graded stakes.
Oh, graded stakes. Okay.
That's graded stakes is the only grade of your horse.
Oh.
The best way to think of benchmark is fleet figure. So if your horse is a 68 fleet figure A plus, and you go into a 68 fleet figure benchmark race, you can't run it with anything that's a 79 or higher. So you're going to see if you're an A plus running a good 68 rather, or 78, whatever the hell I said, you're only going to run against bad S's or, mediocre S minuses, right? Everyone's in that same, fleet figure range at the time of that race, which I think is fair. So,
but there can be bad 70s.
Oh, absolutely. Have you seen some of these S minuses and SP that people have bred? And now you have all these S pluses that are coming out that probably don't even belong in the S plus category. They just had one lucky break on the stat, but they're really glorified S horses. Honestly.
Because I remember having bad horses, but they were always floating around 60s, never 70s. So I've seen horses that are like 77 or whatever on their flea figure, and their placement is horrible.
Oh, I was just using the fleet figure as an example.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever want to know the exact data, go to the Gap data website. Go to the menu in the corner.
I think there's actually
some.
Oh no, that's something else. You said Gap, right?
Yeah.
Oh, gap data. There you go. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So top left, click on that little menu, and you're gonna go to what was it, racing charts? Yeah, racing charts. There you go. Average max fleet figure per grade. There you go. Now this will tell you. So if you ever wonder, like, oh, well, the horse put up a X amount of fleet figure, is that good? Most of the time, you don't have any fucking idea.
Yeah.
Here, you can go and look at it and say, okay, how does this horse compare to the current crop? Take a look. And how does it compare historically all time? Honestly, you could just use one or the other. It's about a 10, 12% difference. It's not too crazy yet. Over time, I think we're going to see this chart really change. But right now, you can kind of just go by the current crop and get a good reading. But anyway, it'll tell you, like, here's the average on the blue and here's the max. Because I've had a few that ran like 1 or 2 points lower than the max at the distance, or the grade level rather, and I'm like, oh shit. And yeah, more often than not, figure that horse out, learn the distance, and that horse is running stakes races. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to, the time has to match up, because you can get really lucky. For instance, if you break your maiden in the 3rd week of the season, or the last week of the season, and you were actively racing that horse all season, more than likely that's a claimer horse. I hope people understand that. Like, maybe you just got really unlucky all season, but the chances are that horse just probably isn't that great. But then there's someone like me, who I rotate horses in 2 weeks into the season. That's just how I do it. I have a lot of horses. So I'll race my prime horses the first 2 weeks, really get a feel for those. Usually it's like 15, 20. And then I'm like, you know what? These 5 are not what I thought they were. Let me put them on the bench. Let me cycle 5 more in. That's kind of how I do my racing. So sometimes I start them late. But again, if they come out high fleet figure, really high speed time on that box and whisker thing I showed you earlier, if all these things are matching up, try a stakes race, man. Like, why not? But if you go into a stakes race, you get your ass kicked twice at a distance you already won in your maiden race, and you lose twice in a stakes race, and you look at the parents and say, okay, well, the dad had a good heart, but the mom has a bad heart, you gotta kind of assume that the horse probably took the mom's heart. You know?
I only did 1 stake race. Okay, so and that
Yeah, so he
was
did
at
a
an
stakes
11.
race, so it was 11 furlongs. And where did the horse win? Did he win at 11?
No, he's won an 11 before, or got 2nd place in 11, but that was allowance, and this was yielding too. So
yeah, so yielding is going to be rough. Yielding is always going to have higher fleet figures too. So now you go to charts. Click on your chart. Scroll to the bottom. Click on your archetype. Yeah, so there you go. So your time, the only stakes racing you should be doing with this horse is 9 or 10. That's it.
9 or 10.
And the dots are telling you that, because the 9 is above the box slightly, and the 10 I think has 2 that are above the box. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, you can use data. Go back to your race history. Go to where he won at 11, or took 2nd. What was the time? 221 on 50. But now you got 4 pounds on your back. I've been working on the calculation to kind of normalize the weight, but it's not accurate enough yet. So what you can do is you can say, okay, if you ever ran with 11 with no weight on the back, maybe in a maiden or something, compare it to the stakes race, because you ran 221 150, you ran a 220 742 and took 7th place. So in that stakes race, I bet you the winning horse, if you click on it, probably ran like 216, 219. Sorry, was that 12 or 11? 11. Oh, sorry, 219. Yeah, so 219 697. So now you have a baseline. If you want to run against these horses, where do you need to run? You know, or 219 382. But the data's telling you 9, 10 furlongs would be a good race to try a stakes race.
Okay.
You know, try one, maybe try them both. But understand that you might hit the point where you're like, well, shit, now I'm down $75 on this horse because I've been trying to do stakes racing when the game told me a long time ago it's not a stakes runner.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it is or it's not. I'm just saying that you don't have the data to prove that it isn't,
Yeah.
but you do have some data that kind of tells you it might be. And that's
And
the times, the times.
this is another thing I get confused too, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people struggle with this. Is when I see, say, Firm right here with the 3 stars, but he only has 2. I've been told it's between 20 to 40, but then told it's 0 to 20 on the rain chance.
Yeah, again, this is why there's so many bad horses out there. So if you have Firm, that means your horse is getting a boost
Mm-hmm.
on a good or a fast track. Now you can get a good or a fast track on 20%, 40%. You could even get a good track on 60%, believe it or not, but you don't want to go into a 60% chance of rain because that's more than likely going to be a wet track. So you want to go 0, 20, 40. Now, again, this is my theory. I've had people that correlate it, I've had people that disagree. The stars are a multiplier.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say your horse's general speed was 100. Just use a number, put a number on it.
Okay.
And you have 2 stars Firm against a horse that's 3 stars Firm. And you have 100 speed. I'm going to say that your 2 stars is going to turn that into like 110 speed, whereas the horse with 3 is going to turn into like 120. It's going to get like a boost type of deal, right? That makes sense. Now, your horse should never be running yielding. As a matter of fact, you're probably at a disadvantage running on a yielding track.
Yeah.
But you want to be going for a 0, 20% chance of rain.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Now, you could go for 40 if there's no 0, 20 available and you don't want to wait 3, 4 days. Sure, join the 40. Like, I don't really think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
But for your stakes race, you don't want to be running that on a yielding. You want to be running that on a firm, fast track, which is going to give you the best chance at 0 or 20%.
Okay. And then his half star right there for dirt, that's just like you said, multiplier, right? It's just if you whether you have it 3 stars or full stars or 2 stars, does it really matter as much? I mean, it does, I guess,
Oh,
to
it
help.
matters. Oh, it definitely matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you get, you get a horse from Perlino and somebody else has another baby horse from Perlino, but you have 3 stars and they have 2 stars, you're running better. 100%. Unless you're running on turf, then you're not even getting a dirt boost. So it's, but back in the early PFL days, you could run right dirt firm on right turf firm and get away with it. Nowadays, those days are over.
Yeah.
We have way too many, good horses. We don't have a lot of great ones. We have a lot of good ones. So we don't really need to run like off preference anymore. But yeah, I mean, the stars, you want to have as many stars as you can. If you have a couple horses like I do, where they're 3-3-0, 3-2.5-0, you only want to join 40 or 60% and pray for yielding. Anything outside of that, you're going to get the worst possible race you can get. Or if you have like a 3-3 half, you want to go for 40, 60% because you want to get rid of that third category and you want to be yielding. A yielding race is only taking 6 stars into account.
Oh, okay. Okay, so not
if
even
if you're racing right dirt firm, or right dirt fast rather, or right dirt good, it's going to tap into a 9-star system against your firm. If it's on a right dirt soft, like a sloppy or a soft track, it's going to be 9 stars of right dirt soft. But if it's yielding, it's only the first 6 stars are taken into account. It just chops off the firm or soft on every horse. Now you're based on a 6-star system, which is why personally I think yielding times or fleet figures are so much higher.
Yeah.
Because it's only multiplying it by 6 stars instead of 9. So you're getting less. It doesn't make sense, but it's using a different variable to multiply your base stats against in a yielding track, which I think is affecting the fleet figure. But anyway, if you get a yielding track, it's only taking right and dirt. It's not even looking at firm. It's not even looking at soft. So if you have 5 horses in the race that are soft and 5 horses that are firm, but you have 5.5 and they're running 6 in the first 6 stars, you're now at a disadvantage. Because you're only running 5.5 stars of your horse against 6 stars of their horse. Again, early on, people were like, "Oh, preferences aren't that big of a deal."
Yeah.
Oh, we've learned that they're a really big fucking deal, and that's why people like me, who started at B plus and A minus, and I'm working my way
Oh
up, and I've
yeah.
got a lot of bad reads. When I carry my preferences and I carry my temperament
Mhm.
to the higher level, people are gonna see it. And I've already had a few. I've already had a few now that's starting to run. They're making their way up the ladder. They're working their way into stakes races now. I need one more good breed on top of that. You know what I mean? Get a little more juice, but I got to get
Mhm.
to an S plus, and then I can start running, the majors. Because right now S horses are winning some of these majors, but you got to pay a lot of money to get
Yeah.
access to those horses. So
And and I keep seeing all these weird like new races coming out with what is it, Sheba and the hot dogs and this and that. Um, should a new player
and
or
just
say
horses.
even myself? Yeah, but like say this juvenile dynasty. I mean, should I even worry or even do anything with that if I'm still starting out, or if I have like just
I
this
mean,
one
again,
good decent horse?
your horse is going to tell you
Yeah.
whether or not you belong running in those races. And your horse right now tells you you should give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
If it was my horse, my barn, I would 100% go into that series and I'd find a 9 or 10 furlong,
Mm-hmm.
probably 10. But I'd look for 9 or 10 with 20% chance of rain, and I join
Mm-hmm.
it. Because your horse is, what, 7 for 13? Is that horse in profit?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know how much profit, but if you're at least 25 in profit and you lose the stakes race, you'll be back to even.
Mm-hmm.
And no harm, no foul. You learn something. Maybe you go back to allowances, you make some more money. Maybe you try stakes racing again next season for the bigger money when they're 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I mean,
But
there's graded stakes racing or graded championships every season now for every grade.
yeah, that's
You don't have to do it this season, but you might as well take advantage of a horse that has, really good
mm-hmm.
speed or good times at least. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Huh. Okay. I guess
like I said, man, as a new player, just make sure you understand.
and
Running
what
maidens until you win,
yeah.
until you give up on the horse. From there, you go up to stakes racing, you go down to claimers, or you go side to side with a benchmark, allowance, or claimer. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
handicap.
Handicap,
Those
yeah.
three, those three kind of go hand in hand, and it really just depends on, does your horse have temper?
Mm-hmm.
If your horse has temper, put him in some weight with a handicap. Maybe he likes the allowance with the weight. If he doesn't have temper, benchmarks are great. If your horse has heart, probably going to like the stakes racing. If the horse has no heart but good stats and bad temperament,
Mm-hmm.
he's probably going to love benchmarks. And that's why my horses typically love benchmark. Because I just have horses that have really, really mediocre heart, um, moderate temperament, but really good stats. So, that's why I've been dominating claimers. I had like 7 claimer wins in the past 2 days. And I don't really normally run claimers until they're 3 years old. So they just racking up wins.
Yeah. Oh damn. Oh, but the higher end claimers, right? I see there was a depending on the one that you throw them in there's a like a small payout, but there's some bigger ones, right, for claimers?
Yeah, but again, if
Uh-huh.
it is what I'm saying, like, why would you shouldn't even be looking at bigger claimers like that? That was
Yeah.
the problem with PFL early on. We had big money claimers. It's absolutely retarded. Like,
Mm-hmm.
claiming in horse racing is to get rid of horses, right?
Yeah.
So if people are like, well, why would I ever get into PFL and race my horses in a claimer? I'm not going to make any money. Well, then go buy a horse that doesn't belong in claimers. There's tons of them.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is everyone's buying horses that they think are stakes runners, but they're not. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you hit me up and you're like, yo, Mo, I'm putting this horse in a 1K S minus claimer, your Rasta Von Don,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, well, you're a dumbass because that horse is going to get claimed 100%. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't belong there. You feel me?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
this horse, based on the stats, the fleet figures, the race times, um, it's got, potential stakes runner written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can show you 10 of mine that don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but people will buy those horses and be like, well, I deserve to run a stakes race. No, you don't. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't.
Okay.
But again, if you're crying about, and I'm not saying you,
Yeah.
but in general, people are crying about, well, I bought a horse for $10. Okay, cool. So now you put him in a race that costs you $2 to join.
Mhm.
Great. You win the race, and if it's a full race, you're going to get back pretty much what you paid for the horse in general in the beginning. And now you have a win.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't put him back in a claimer. Like the whole point isn't to win $2-3 over and over again. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is to use those as bottom of the barrel, let people run, 10, 15 horses there a day to have some fun, something to watch. But maybe they learned something. As a matter of fact, I just pulled one of my horses out of claimers, and someone could have claimed this dude, and I put him in allowance, and he dominated next race out, and now I'm putting him in stakes racing. Someone could have
Oh
stole that horse from me.
damn.
Yeah, someone could have stole that horse from me. Honestly, he came out the first race. I think he put up a second or a third, and I put him in another claimer. He took another second.
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
all right, well, but because I don't like the bloodline. The bloodline was mediocre, so why the hell would
Yeah.
I keep spending 10, 15, $20 to race that horse and maidens and everything else?
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, I'll just wait till he's 3 and I'll put him in a claimer, and that's what I did. People could have seen that and been like, oh shit, you know what? I'll claim that horse for $8, and now
I
they
know,
could have been
right?
winning the allowances. They could be setting up
Damn.
for A plus stakes racing, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what people need to be looking to do. But they shouldn't be racing claiming, being like, I'm trying to make $500 racing this month. You're not going to do it in
Yeah.
claiming
True.
races. That's not the point. But maybe again, maybe you put 10 in claiming, maybe 5 of them win,
Mhm.
and then maybe 3 of them get claimed. So now you're down 3 horses, but you got an extra whatever $40 in the bankroll now
Yep.
on top of the money you earned. Again, keep doing that over and over and over again. Maybe you do make that 500. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But you're not gonna do it with 1 horse, 2 horses in claiming
Oh yeah.
races like
No.
that. That shit's gonna make you, $25 a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But hey, maybe you're someone who, has a normal job, doesn't have the time, just wants to run 1 or 2 horses in claimers and doesn't care if they lose them. They'll just claim another one. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, low end claimers and benchmark racing, in my opinion, is the future of PFL. I said it a year ago when everyone was crying for more expensive racing and everything else. I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Because the average player isn't gonna spend. Dude, maidens used to be like $30.
Oh, I never knew that.
Could you imagine
Wow.
buying some of these shitty horses and having to spend $30 a maiden race, or
No, that's
20,
crazy.
$25 a maiden race? Do that 4 or 5 times to finally break your maiden. And now and back then you had nowhere to race after that. You'd be like, oh
Mhm.
shit, like I don't even know where to go now. But at least now, like I said, you spend, what is it,
Mhm.
like 8 to 12 bucks on average for a maiden.
I think the fear was the why people were fearing that is seeing the downfall of Zed and how they had started pretty high and kept lowering their entry fees. I think that's one reason why people were kind
Yeah,
of
listen,
forward
and,
in
and,
that.
and I'll play devil's advocate with myself all day,
Hmm.
and that's valid. But you can't just keep raising the price point of entry for any new player. It was nothing but
True,
crypto
true.
people in the beginning. Okay. And the second that I went into a casino or a track, and I have a OTB right near my house that my mother used to work at, like off track betting, and any single person that I got interested in there was instantly turned off by $25, $40 maiden races. And then, like, everything after that was like astronomical.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense. But now you come in, buy a horse again. Should horses be $10 as S minus or S's? Probably not,
No.
but they are, and you
Hmm.
can still make $100, $200 a month racing it if you actually know what the hell you're doing.
Hmm.
You know, but you can come in now, buy a horse for 10, $15, put it in a maiden race that costs you 8 to 10, $12. Race 2 or 3 times, learn the horse. You're in 35, $40 in the hole,
Hmm.
and if everything fucking fails, you go to claiming, and you
Hmm.
spend $1 a race, $1.50 a race. You know what I mean? And maybe someone claims it off your hands, you get your money back. Maybe you like what happened with me. Maybe you run the race of its life, and you're like, whoa, I did not even test that out beforehand.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I might have uncovered something not only about the horse itself, but the entire bloodline.
Hmm.
Like that's crazy. You could discover the entire bloodline by doing some random ass $1.50 race. Like it's possible. So
Where
that's
do
what
you
I'm saying, man. I want people racing like 10, 15 of those grade restricted claimers every day. That's what they should be doing.
where do you test your what race type do you go for to test your horses and figure out their preferred tunnel or distance?
Everything.
Oh, there's not like a main one?
Everything. No, I mean maiden. Every single horse I have goes through the same exact test. What did your parents do? Do I know the bloodline? Did I just buy this horse? Did I trade somebody for it? Is it new to my barn?
Mm-hmm.
But again, I know I have boy named Sue. I have weekend moderator. I have certain bloodlines that I don't have to put him in maidens. I can just put him straight into a stakes race. I know the funnel.
Oh,
I know the
damn.
distance. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then I'll get one where I'm like, ooh, shit, wait a second. That horse didn't really run anything like boy named Sue.
Yeah.
Let me try a different funnel. Ooh, that time was not anything near boy named Sue, so it got the bad heart gene. It just didn't get the good heart. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. You know.
It's so, and I know you were talking about this before. So if the parents both are sprinters, let's say, right, the babies or the offspring are not always going to be falling under the preferred distance of what the parents are, right? It just could be randomly.
Probability. Possibility versus probability. It's probable it's going to be a sprinter.
Yeah.
But it's possible it won't be. And again, you know what I'm saying? So if you have two parents that are sprinters, I would more than likely try the first maiden race at 5 furlongs or 6 furlongs. You know, if the horse comes out in the 5 furlong race and never makes a move, like doesn't run to the front and then die, you know, I'd probably go to 7, 8, 9 next. I'd probably go for 7 or 8 and see, like, okay, well, it didn't really make a move in the first race at 5, or maybe it started to make a move like the last half a furlong into 6, and you're like, okay, well, shit, he just showed up a little too late, so that means he's got to go longer, right? So his move makes sense, and that's what you do. You stretch him out. But you have to basically start as a starting point. You have to have something.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to go to the parents and say, okay, parents, both sprinters, there you go. You know, another scenario you might have about 10 minutes tops. Another scenario you might run into is two parents you bred for the first time. You have no idea what the hell their babies are going to do.
Yep.
But the mom ran sprint and the dad ran long.
Oh, I was going to ask you that next, yeah.
You know, a lot of people might even tell you should never even breed that. They might be right, because more often than not, you're going to get a pretty across-the-board baby.
Oh.
But if your baby's across the board, they usually love 7, 8 furlongs if they're medium. So maybe you get a horse that evens out, you know, and you run 7, 8 furlongs. He loves it, or they love it. But then from there, if it's a female and you're breeding it again, and you have an even filly, you breed into going long, or you breed into sprinting, it's going to be helpful along the way. But for that baby, if you're going to race that baby, because I don't race a lot of my babies, I know I'm only making these babies for one purpose: to even out a flaw in the bloodline. Maybe I know the mom has bad speed, so I go to a dad with super speed. The baby's not going to have probably good stats. It's going to be even. But that's my point. My point is to fix the horse, not create a super horse. So I don't even race the horse half the time. If it's a mom, if it's a female, I leave it on the bench. I wait for it to turn 3. I retire it. And I check the speed. I check the heart. I check everything else against the mom. And I say, okay, did I fix it? If I did, I breed a new one. And I don't breed. Well, sometimes I still breed the mom. But a lot of times, if I don't want to breed the mom anymore, I'll shut her down. And I'll just put her on the bench. And now she's just sitting around. But again, it's all about moving up.
Yeah.
But you don't want to move up and not pay attention. Some people are like, oh, I got an A+ and I bred an S. That's like the worst thing you can possibly get. People are excited when they breed an A to an S or an A+ to an S and they get an S filly. They're so excited. Those people should be miserable because their racing career is going to be horrible. Their breeding is going to be bad. It's not going to be a good horse. you probably just got enough of the stat line to get into an S. You know what I mean? What you want is an A+ to an S and get an S-. That means
you said
you
A+?
got, well, whatever two horses you put together, you want to catch the middle. You don't want to get, you don't want to get the A+ breeding to an S and get an S filly, because that's going to be a weak S filly more often than not. Again, possibility versus probability. You can get a super horse. It's happened. I've seen it.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to breed a horse 10, 15 times praying for a miracle. I'd rather have something that's a little more consistent and then get a really, really, really good horse on top of that when the good one comes out, you know?
Okay, so you said, I don't know if I heard that right, but you said like A+ to an S, and you would prefer it being in the middle than going higher above, say, one of the parents. Oh,
yeah, or even better, breed an
shit.
A+ to an S and get stuck at A+, but you get some crazy super S stats that come down to that A+ now that are sitting around. That could work out to your advantage too. But going up from an A+ to an S breed and getting an S baby is usually not going to work out well for people. They're excited, trust me. They're excited at first. Like, oh my god, my highest level horse ever, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think S pluses are so bad, most of them?
True.
Because they're coming from S's, and they're coming from like an S- to an S that came out like a weird S+, or they're coming from two S's that got a little lucky and come out the S+. Not many of these horses are coming from an S+ to an S and going up a little bit. Not many. There's a few now, but I'm just saying, like,
just that fast breeding.
yeah, we all did it.
Yeah.
Again, I did it with every one of my horses. You know why? Because I knew I could make 100K if I just unloaded every fucking horse that I owned in the first 6 months, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
But now, I don't sell anything. I haven't sold a horse in months. I don't care to. I'm making way more money racing than I ever was selling horses, first of all.
Yeah.
The problem is, if I don't pay attention, I can lose a lot of money too by racing a lot of bad horses that I know are bad. And I'm just, again, trying to fix stats or test out my theories. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, it is what it is. But anything else? This was way more than intro.
Yeah, it was.
I can't really talk intro to PFL, and that's why I don't really do these interviews and these chats, because I've been doing this for so long. It's all second nature to me.
Yeah, I might end up having to cut some of it out. It's all good though. But I mean, I know you have to go, and I just wanted to say I appreciate you even stopping by.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like I said, it's I'm not trying to offend people, you know, when I talk PFL, but I feel like nowadays I do, because I'm not out here trying to shit on people's horses. I'm not trying to affect their value, but I am trying to get new players in particular racing correctly. Yeah. And unfortunately, that kind of goes hand in hand when some of these horses coming down are really just that bad, you know? Yeah. So, again, if anybody listens to this and whatever you keep in, if it offends anybody, I apologize, but that's never my intention. I've done this shit for free for 2 years, just because I love horse racing. I love video games. I love Ian. I love the game. I love PFL. The community for a long time took care of me. Nowadays, it's a little muddy in that water, but you know, I'll keep doing it. You know, as long as people keep showing up, hanging out. You know, again, come by the streams every Friday night, Saturday night. We do the championships. You know, over on MoKnowz on Twitter. We stream on Twitter, Twitch, and Kick. So any of those you can tune in and watch. But thanks, man. Thanks for having me, and we'll catch up soon.
Appreciate it, Mo. Thank you, man, and have a good day.
You too, bud. Take it easy.